Theater Talk is made possible in part by the CUNY TV Foundation.
Why are you looking at me like that?
Like what, Maggie?
The way you were looking at me just now before I caught your eye in the mirror and you started to whistle. I don't know how to describe it, but it froze my blood, and I've caught you looking at me like that so often lately. What are you thinking of when you look at me like that?
I wasn't even conscious of looking at you, Maggie.
This is Theater Talk. I'm Susan Haskins. There is a star-studded revival of Cat on a Hot Tin Roof on Broadway, and we thought this would be a great opportunity to talk about that classic Tennesse Williams play with two people who know a great deal about it. Here to introduce them, my co-host, Michael Riedel of the New York Post.
And we are very happy tonight to be joined by the great actress Elizabeth Ashley, who gave, I think, one of the most memorable interpretations of Maggie the Cat in the production of A Cat on a Hot Tin Roof in 1974 on Broadway, yes?
Yes, I think so.
Welcome to Theater Talk. And you are also a close personal friend of Tennesse Williams.
Yeah.
And we're also joined by our good friend John Lahr, the drama critic for The New Yorker, who is completing Lyle Leverich's biography of Tennesse Williams.
I'm doing the second volume.
You're doing the second volume,
yeah. It takes Tennessee's life from the opening of Glass Menagerie to...
And Lyle's book is his childhood.
His childhood,
yeah. Welcome to Theater Talk. John, what was going on in Tennesse Williams' life at the time he wrote Cat on a Hot Tin Roof?
Well, it's interesting because Williams's plays are like his own moral internal temperature, since he wrote so autobiographically. And this play, which arrives in 53, 54 in there, is at a time after Williams had a great failure with Camino Real, and also his revision of Battle of Angels, his first Broadway play, Orpheus Descending, had collapsed. And you know, the argument in Cat on a Hot Tin Roof is really about Maggie wanting her inheritance, and in that story, and in the sort of, which is a cast in terms of finance, her urgency, really Williams projected his wanting his own inheritance, which was to inherit the mantle of greatness, which he felt he only had a limited amount of time to achieve. He saw that he could achieve it, and this was, in a sense, a really important throw of the dice to him. He always felt, didn't he, Elizabeth, that he had his back against the wall.
Always.
Even when he was at his height, you know. So the real context always for Williams is sort of a life and death struggle to seize his talent and his moment, and which the play is about. You know, it's also about the split in him, which was gradually evolving, which is the split of his own hysteria, which is Maggie, and a certain kind of indifference, this sense of paralysis, which was incipient in his own life.
Which is breaking away. I mean,
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. He's always writing out of his own, as Vidal says in his actually terrific essay on Williams. You know, Williams was writing out of his own little repertory company of his family and his own psyche, do you know what I mean? So he's always dividing himself up. So Big Daddy, he allows his father back into from the wings into this big character, this hard-driving, carousing, drinking character. So it works on many levels, but there's certainly an autobiographical thread.
Now, Liz, you're nodding your head at all the psychological interpretations John is saying about this. You knew Tennesse Williams well. I mean, is that really what was going on in his head when he was working out his own biography?
Well, one of the things I so admire about John is that John has extraordinary psychological insight that I don't feel is colored by any agenda of John's. I mean, it's a wonderful, objective, deeply thoughtful, deeply intelligent overview of Tennessee's psyche. I mean, I don't have that sort of wisdom or intellect.
But you were close to that psyche. You saw
well, yes,
it.
well, of course. But when you know someone, well, first of all, when someone has been a heroic specter in your life since you were about 9 years old, and had, knew nothing of the theater, on nothing north of Georgia, so to speak, and then you are privileged and blessed to not only work with that person but get to know them. You don't have objectivity, you only have subjectivity. And so the first phase is, of course, getting through the being utterly awed and paralyzed by the specter of this greatness that you're actually in the presence of, and then little by little, whatever common ground you have for me, and for me with Tennessee, it was that I was Southern, and which is a very
And a monster.
Very specific. What?
And a monster.
Well, perhaps, yes. I mean, one tried to hide that, but Tennessee could smell that on me. 6 miles down the road, pal. And then also, he took a great liking to my mother, Miss Lucille, and they became great friends. And so, I mean, and then after you know someone like that and you become close to them, it becomes really absurdly funny, because I mean, all that hero, specter, genius, artist stuff goes right out the window. I mean, and you just become, gross out drinking buddies in, sort of toilet bars in third world countries and things, you know what I mean?
Does this sound like the Tennesse Williams you're researching, John?
Absolutely. It's the man. It's my boy. I mean, it's interesting, because just about the first words out of Elizabeth's mouth was the word specter. And the ghostliness, this is part of what hysteria is, actually, that the hysteric, Williams was a card-carrying hysteric and talked about it. You are inhabited by, to a certain, and we call them ghosts, but voices, projections. And the first words virtually in the play are the fact that this house that they live in, it carries the ghosts of two homosexual men, he says. And the characters are haunted. Brick is haunted by Skipper. The father is haunted by the fact that his, by the life that he didn't live. And Maggie is haunted by, the prospect of being without child, and by some need, and by her sexual frustration at not being able to connect with. So, in other words, what writing did for Williams, what this play, gorgeously expresses, is finding a way to externalize a sense of internal absence, which is all of what Williams is about. And it is just a thrilling play, and a really difficult, gnarly one, because Elizabeth comes out and has one act where virtually she is power. That character comes out, with 4 on the floor, and stays there for an entire act.
Well, yeah, I am.
Yeah, right. And then Williams, there's a controversy around whether Kazan's version was the right version, which seems to me absolutely was, because Big Daddy was never paid off.
There are 2 third acts, I believe.
Yeah,
right?
there's Williams.
The production I did, the Tennessee worked on, he put back he restored much of what he felt that had been compromised by Kazan.
So what's the difference?
We should just say, though, that Kazan had Williams rewrite.
Oh, yes.
The third act.
Yeah, but without that, the play would not. I mean, it was crucial to. Kazan absolutely saved Williams's bacon and career, because, because he rounded the play out, he filled it out. He also made it not quite as bleak. There was a sort of hope at the end that Brick and Maggie would get together.
Now, the one you did so brilliantly, you played Williams's original act.
Well, I don't know that it was either or, because Williams, the great, extraordinary blessing of that production was that it was the 20th anniversary of its opening on Broadway, I believe. And so Tennessee came and was on site. And all I know is that he came with it seemed like 25 biryani bags full of everything from old shirt things he'd written on, and then typed pages, and I mean, which he sort of gave. He said, well, you might find some things you like a little better than that. So I mean, it said we were seeing this church in Stratford, Connecticut, with all these piles, and he would say, and he loved actors, and he would say, well, he says, I don't want to read it. Y'all just, you find what you think you like, and then just do it for me. So we did. And I actually found the ending on ours even sort of more hopeful. That last speech, Maggie's last speech to Brick, which don't ask me to remember, I just found one of the most, like, it ends with, what you need is, it's that thing of, you people, you weak people who give up with such grace. What you need is somebody to take hold of you and hand your life back to you like something gold you let go of. No, I don't know where that came from.
Oh, I mean, it's great, though.
But the things like that, and I know that he had 2 or 3 versions of that. I don't know, but I just know that it was slightly different. And also we were able to actually say, rather than fug you or, stuff like that. But because, the original production, there was the threat of it in Boston when it was out of town in Boston pre-Broadway because of the language they said, but actually, I've always heard, and Tennessee swears, was because of the sort of subject matter of homosexuality was under threat of being closed down by, get this, federal marshals on a morals charge.
Is this true? I mean, you're ready to
Well,
book.
I mean, I'm not there yet in my researches, but he sure looked that up.
And that's when Tennessee got rip-roaring drunk, flew off to Tangier somewhere, and Kazan said, don't worry, I'll fix it.
It's fair to say, though, as you pointed out earlier, though, Kazan was instrumental in...
Well, just the thing that Liz said when she quoted that speech at the end about you weak people, it's lovely the way Williams writes both sides of himself, because Williams was both that very, very weak person, uncertain, unsure, and needing the sure. He couldn't make up his mind, couldn't get himself to the airport. He was, in some sense, very apparently absent in every way. I mean, absent-minded, messy. When he wrote, it was like an externalization of his mind. He didn't pick up the pages. The pages would fly off the typewriter and they'd be around, and he would just grab them all and then collate them. I mean, it was like,
and stick them in biryani bags.
Yeah, right. It was as if his mess, his internal mess, was externalized.
Was his substance abuse problem coming to
By
the fore at
then,
that
it was
point?
already kicked in pretty well.
Yeah.
But I mean, drinking.
What's the key to playing Maggie the cat?
I'm pretty simple in these matters, but I think the key is I had about 3 cats, and I starved them for 2 weeks to see what they'd do if they were hungry. I mean, you kept them alive, but I mean, so I mean, I tend
the
to
PETA people coming down on you.
No, so you
bring them on.
You starve the cats and you watch the cats and you...
What would they do? And it was interesting to watch the phases they went through. Plus, look, I mean, I grew up a Southern girl from a sort of shattered family, first divorce ever in this old Southern family. So it was always, and there were no such things as working mothers or this or that or the other. And I mean, the divorce was even sort of a shadowy thing, but I came from this family that was full of this general in the Civil War and that and this and the other. So there was always that, and so I understood viscerally. I know the first thing I ever understood about Maggie was when she said, my mama had to make my debutante dress. I remember my mama had to make it out of old Vogue patterns, and all those hand-me-down clothes. And the other thing about Maggie, just let me tell you, it's like fast. See, there's a lot of people think that the minute that they're doing a Southern play, that the language is the first thing they get wrong. And I mean, and Tennesse Williams is, in terms of English language, dramatic poet. I mean, I think in a class with Shakespeare. And his language is the key to so much. And even though it's Southern, it's not slow.
As I understand it, from reading Mary Chestnut's Dixie Diary,
Yeah.
the whole wonderful rhythm, the sway, the punctilio, which Williams plays off and Maggie plays off, the combination of sort of the sort of florid and ferocity, that kind of game that he's playing, all of that sort of decorousness of the genteel Southern thing, all of that was evolved over time in terms of manners and speech, because white women in the South wanted to separate themselves from the black females that their husbands were attracted to. The very speech of these plays comes out of a reaction to the reality of African Americans in the community. I think it's important because at the base of this, the discussion of this play is about mendacity.
Have you ever heard of the word mendacity?
Sure. Mendacity, that's one of them $5 words that cheap politicians throw back and forth at each other.
You know what it means?
Oh, don't it mean lying and liars?
Yes, sir. Lying and liars.
The mendacity of the play, let's say, this is a man, Big Daddy's a man, who has 28,000 acres of the most fertile land west of the Nile.
The Valley Nile.
Yeah, right. Now, okay, now, those 28,000 fertile acres of Delta land were, that wealth, that was built on the backs of slavery.
Yes.
And slaves. Therefore,
the whole thing is.
That's right. That is the unspoken central. That is the layer. That's the omnipresent, unspoken central sin, under which this whole elaborate structure of society, manners, wealth have been built.
Illusions.
Yes, it's all been to cut out, to block out, to not see the decorousness of the language, the decorousness of the formality of Southern manners, to actually alibi, if you were, this unspoken but omnipresent sort of gigantic thing, which is why so much of the South, I think, is God-haunted. You know, because there is a sin there that is just huge. Now,
we get to the present production.
Now, we
must say this is an all African-American production.
That's right, which brings me, I'm sorry to do this, but, you know, I've not seen the show, but I think, well, and I am, I believe very, I believe in a sort of reasonable sense of using rainbow casting. No problem with it. But to take this play and to turn it into an all-black cast of fine actors, it seems to me to be a completely intellectual folly that robs the premise of the play of all its sociological, historical, and even emotional reality for those actors. And you know, I'm puzzled by it, and the only thing I could think of, a few of these actors in the cast have been very, very excellent in the work of another great American lyric playwright, August Wilson. Now, there are a lot of white American actors who would love to play and speak those great words of Wilson's. But what if American actors played an August Wilson? Well, imagine
an all-white production
an
of
all-white
Fences.
production.
It wouldn't make sense.
None. In the same way that in this case, in this kind of play, I think it is daft.
Now wait, Liz, you haven't seen it either, I know, but do you agree?
No.
Why not?
Oh, good.
Well, I mean, to me, it's that. I mean, I'm coming from a pure actor place here, but I think that any great play. I mean, I think they should be done every conceivable kind of way. I mean, to me, this isn't a whole lot different from doing a modern dress Shakespeare, you know? I mean, God forbid I will avoid, like the play, going to see black cubes and people in business suits doing Shakespeare, but that's just me. However, I mean,
oh, not just you.
I think that great plays particularly should be, because there's never just one aspect, there's never just one story, there's never just one point of view or one theme in any great drama. And I think, you see, first of all, it's all, it's Southern, true, but it's all Gulf Coast Southern. And one of the things that is really still almost a taboo that people don't really speak about is sort of the class strata in the African American communities.
August Wilson deals with those issues.
Absolutely. But see, I just think that it's extraordinarily interesting because the black family structure and white family structure, particularly in the Deep South, is emotionally and psychologically so mated, so the same, really. And
really?
yeah, particularly a black Southern family in the 50s, and they were at the very top of their social community, whatever. And see, I think it would be much more worrisome. I think you would have to deal with race if you did what the rainbow casting, whatever that is. But I think which I think can be done magnificently in many plays and should be. But I feel every time you reinterpret, you re-examine, you go into a way of doing something that has never been done before, with brilliant actors, then you are going to see it in another way. You are going to learn something more. And that's what great plays do. I mean, that's their job in life, is to illuminate the human condition.
All right, okay.
John wants to slap me down.
No, I don't, actually.
Smarty, just...
No, I actually think you've made me, at least, I mean, let me say that, for instance, Morgan Freeman and Frances McDermott are going to be playing
Country Girl.
Country Girl.
I think that's
brilliant casting,
yeah,
because it actually informs the problem between the couples. I think that to make my own argument, which I mean, you persuade me to want to even see the all black.
Well, right. That's my job.
Yeah. But I actually think that plays are a little memory theater, and that it allows. Well, it's true. And how else are we going to understand?
I'll fight you forever on that one.
Well, no, it is, and I mean, I don't see. I think that all that by doing what they're doing, they take the play. Yes, you're going to see something you've never seen before. You're going to see it takes it out of its socioeconomic historical time and turns it into an opportunity for actors to
could be effective. So all right, so she's at least convinced you to go to this all black.
Well, yeah. I mean, I see the point, but I'm going to go.
Okay, all right.
On the beg, because she makes a good case.
We got to wrap it up, but I do want to put you on the spot. You mentioned something that what did Barbara Bel Geddes, who played Maggie originally, say to you about this part?
Well, because I had been an understudy when I was like 18 or something in Mary Mary. I'd understudied Betsy von Furstenberg, so I got to know Barbara a little bit. So it's always intimidating when you play one of those big old famous parts. But Barbara said, absolutely, you've got to play it. She said, the only reason Gadge cast me, speaking of Kazan, the only reason Gadge cast me, Barbara said that Kazan told her that because the play was considered so dangerous at the time because of the sexual content and all of this, that Gadge said to her, well, he said, you're the all-American girl in the little white Peter Pan collar that nobody's ever going to want to and so consequently, that's why I'm casting you as Maggie, because you will take the danger off of it.
Listen, thanks a lot. Liz Ashley, great actress.
Thank you,
Great
sir.
Maggie the Cat in the 73 production, right?
73, 74, sometime in there.
And we'll be seeing you on Broadway in the coming
Yes.
season in the Horton
Dividing
Footplay.
the estate.
We'll look forward to that. And the terrific critic for The New Yorker, John Lahr, good luck with the second part of the Tennesse Williams biography.
Thank you.
We are scheduled to have, in a couple of weeks, members of the company of this production of Cat on a Hot Tin Roof. And I'm going to ask
We'll
them
be
about
sure
your
to
point.
show them the clip.
Well, you know, I mean, fair enough. It's just that for this cranky old soul, I'm just uncertain about
This
it. But
cranky old white Yankee.
This white guy. but I'm gonna listen to Liz, and I'm gonna sit there with an open mind and let it happen.
All right, Liz, John, thanks a lot for being our guest. Go with him. Just take
Yeah, I'll do that in a
It's a
minute.
date, sugar.
Yeah, I'd do that.
You and me.
Let's do it.
All right, great. Thanks a lot, guys.
I have lived with mendacity. Now, why can't you live with it? Hell, you got to live with it. Nothing else to live with except mendacity, is there?